Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll start adding you in here in a couple of seconds. You'll start coming in. If you're new here, welcome. Put in your name and where you're from. You're dialing in from today, and we'll get started here in a minute or so. But I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I'm hoping this is going to be a very helpful session for you. Just ask questions about the holidays and how to navigate them, knowing how difficult they really are when you're grieving. And so, welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us, please go ahead and type your name in the chat and let us know where you're dialing in from. I'm really excited to have everybody here tonight. I know this is a very challenging time of year. And so as we let more people in, as more people come into the session, if you're joining us, please put your name. Hey, Nancy. All right. In Ohio. Awesome. Liz. Hey, Liz. Good to see you. Good evening from Florida. I'm in Florida as well, Tampa. So this is great. Darla from South Lake Tahoe. Oh, wow. That's really cool. I really appreciate you folks joining in. Gail is coming in from Yonkers. Hey, Gail. Welcome. Again, if you're just joining us, please put your name and where you're dialing in from tonight in the chat. And if you have any questions that you have on your heart and on your mind right now, please go ahead and type those into the chat. I'm going to share a little bit about what this session's about, and then we'll dive in to the Q&A. And I want to make sure that we end on time tonight because your time is precious and valuable. And I just am grateful for you to join me tonight here for this live stream. And this is the first of 3, by the way. So tonight is session 1. After tonight, if you'd like to join us for the second session, which is going to be on Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then I'm actually holding a session the day after Christmas because a lot of times this build up to the holiday is a lot harder than the day itself. Sometimes it's about the same. Sometimes it's actually harder on Christmas Day. And so the day after is kind of a good place to come in, kind of do, I wouldn't say a debrief as much as I would say it's a good place to kind of just say, okay, this is how it went, because there could be a lot of things that we can all glean from everybody coming in here. So awesome. So let's see, we got Patrick who's dialing from Dublin, Ohio. Wow, that's fantastic. Dublin. Sandra, welcome. Marianne from Phoenix, welcome. Richard from Florida, fantastic. Sandra's Missouri. Fernando's from Las Vegas, fantastic. Yeah, happy holidays to everybody, and thank you guys so much for joining tonight. Again, these sessions are for you. I'd love to answer your questions. I know there's a lot that goes through your mind, not only any day of the year when you're going through grief, but especially around, excuse me, the holidays. It can be extremely challenging to navigate these days. And I don't know about you, but I remember the very first Christmas, the holiday season after I lost Zoe. It was only a few months, 7 or 8 months after I lost her. And I didn't want to do anything. You know, I don't know if that's just common in grief, but there's this sense that every bit of energy or hope or happiness that came along with the holiday season, especially if it's your first year without your loved one, first holiday season, it is almost like there's absolutely no feelings at all, if that makes any sense. And if that makes some sense and that resonates with you, put a yes in the chat, because there's one of a couple things I believe that happens. One, we find our way through the holiday, which we're going to, but more importantly, we just want the day to go by as fast as possible. Like if it didn't even occur, would you even care? Probably not. And so I get that, because I remember approaching that first Christmas and the holiday season without Zoe, and I didn't want to do anything. And I remember sitting on my couch. This was probably mid-December, about this time actually. It was about a week before Christmas, and I was sitting on my couch watching, at that point, one of my favorite Christmas movies. Again, not in the spirit at all, but it was A Christmas Carol. And I've always liked that movie because there's something about redemption in that entire film. The story of Scrooge, how he goes from not keeping Christmas in his heart to, at the end, realizing that there is a lot of good in this world and that he can actually bring it and help other people. And so, but there's a scene at the end where he's being confronted by Christmas Yet to Come about his own mortality. And so it was very challenging to sit here and to sit there and listen to this movie because his it was only when he recognized that Bob Cratchit was mourning the death of his son that it all hit me like a ton of bricks. That here I am, a week outside of Christmas. Every other year before that with Zoe was always celebrated with happiness and joy, and here I am sitting on my couch with nothing to show for it. At least that's how I felt. And again, and by the way, there is absolutely no one right way to navigate the holidays, and we're going to get into that in this session. But I didn't want to do anything. But when I saw that scene in A Christmas Carol, I remember that Zoe absolutely loved Christmas, and so I knew I wasn't going to take all of my decorations out and set up everything like I normally did. I'm talking about lights in the windows, the trees, the lights around, all of it, stuff out front on the lawn, none of it. I didn't want to do any of that. But what I was going to do was I was going to get my tree and I was going to get the box of ornaments. And so I did. I went upstairs to my attic space, and that's all I could grab. And this was, I was living in New England at the time, and it was freezing, and the attic space was not heated at all. So I had to dig through boxes to find all my stuff. And I got the tree, I got the ornaments, and I came downstairs and I set up the tree. Still wasn't feeling anything until I opened up the box of ornaments. And when I tell you that it hit me right here, it's just I had forgotten about everything that was in that box. And what was in that box were all the ornaments for the tree, of course, but it was all the ornaments that Zoe and her older sister Aminda had made over the years. Every year they contributed more, they made more, we added more to the point where it was hard to find spots on the tree for the ornaments. And I broke down crying. I cannot believe this is happening. That this is right in front of me here. And I felt like it was a gift. And so that year, the tree went up, the lights were on. I was able to make it through Christmas Day, as hard as it was. And I would say that probably a few days after Christmas, that was as much as I could handle, if that makes any sense. And so I put everything neatly away, and the next year was different. But I shared that story with you because everybody is going to face this holiday differently. I only wish I had resources like this to be able to get on and speak to somebody, ask questions, because I had a ton of questions, like I'm sure you do. And some of the questions are starting to come in, but please know that you don't have to do anything. I definitely want to make sure that there's clarity here that if it's just not in your heart to do anything on Christmas, then the next best thing is to take care of yourself every single day leading up to it and after it, and to connect with a community for support and companionship, because we need to walk this together. We need to walk this path with people that understand what we're facing on a day-to-day basis, right? We need to face these difficult challenges with support. We don't have a guide. Sorry, we don't have a manual when it comes to living life, and we certainly don't have a manual when it comes to when we lose somebody, because every situation is unique. And so it's very hard to reconcile our emotions. It's very hard to reconcile our feelings, and we might be feeling okay one minute, but then we feel like absolutely horrible the next. And it's fluid. It moves in and around these emotions, as ups and downs and backs and steps back, steps forward. It doesn't make any sense. And it's so hard to process this, especially, and it's amplified, by the way, when you get around the holiday season. And so I'm hoping that these questions that you ask today, I can answer them as best possible. And by the way, if I'm answering a question tonight and there is something that has worked for you in the same scenario, please put that in the chat for the person who's asking the question, because we can all benefit from our shared experience of navigating our grief. And we're all here for each other. Right now, there's 20 people in the room, and I'm so grateful for you. If you're just joining us, please put your name and where you're dialing in from. Dialing in from. Okay, what is this? 1998? I'm sorry. I'm old school. I was in IT for a long time, but anyway. So let's go ahead and get into some of the questions here, because you guys have been very patient, and I appreciate you letting me share that initial story with you. Oh, and by the way, here is one of the decorations that Zoe made. It's just beaded. We got those little kits from Michael's or Joanne Fabric, one of the two. And Zoe put this together. It's always going to be on my tree. And every time I put it up on my tree, I reminded of her. And I know that that may not feel the same for others who are, again, fresh with the grief, with your grief, and there's no obligation for you to do anything. But I just like to share with you that as time goes by, and with your actions of working to heal, there are better days ahead. This holiday may be really horrible for you, but next holiday might not be. There's another thing that Zoe made. This was a long time ago. This is just on a small little piece of 2x4, but she painted this Christmas tree, and it says Xmas on here. But she painted this on a piece of wood. I keep this in my room all the time. I look at it year round. I'm always going to have this, and I know it's just a piece of wood to me, but it holds a lot of good memories about my daughter. And I hope that you have some totems around your home that remind you really good memories of your loved one. But let's go ahead and dive into some of the questions here. So Gail wrote, tomorrow makes 5 months without her sister, Teresa, and I'm finding it really hard to do anything or be happy. This is my first without her, and I don't feel Christmas at all. Gail, you're not wrong. This is the way grief shows up around the holidays. It's like running into a brick wall with our emotions. What we felt when your sister was here, what you felt when your sister was here was probably a lot of hope and happiness and joy around the holiday season. And now that she's not here, it feels like there's a big empty hole. There's a gap there. And it's really hard to fill that. And you're not obligated to fill it with anything except, I believe, to take care of yourself in the best way possible. And sometimes that means just doing whatever you can do on, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after. If you're invited to spend some time with friends or family, it's completely up to you whether you go or not. You're not obligated to do anything. But it's okay to take care of yourself in the best way you can. I'd like to start off with this, because this is something that has helped me over the years. I was invited over to a family or friend's house on Christmas Day that first year, and I didn't want to go. Very much like Gail, I just wanted to sit. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't feel it. Christmas was not in my heart. And despite putting up the tree and remembering that Zoe really loved Christmas, that was as much as I could do, but it still was very dull, if that makes sense. I just felt like nothing. And like you, Gail, like everybody else here, I just wanted it to go by as fast as possible. And so I remember saying yes. Saying yes to my friend to go over to their house for Christmas during the day, but I also shared with him that, look, man, I appreciate this, and it might be a game time decision, meaning I might call you up on Christmas morning and say, I'm just not feeling it. I just want to stay home today. And I can tell you 3 times on Christmas morning that morning, I had my finger on the dial, but I chose not to, because when I thought about it, at least for me, it made sense to go, because there were going to be some really good friends at his house, and I did go, but I didn't go for long. I stayed for maybe 2 hours, The party was going to go all afternoon and into the evening, and that was as much as I could do, and that was okay. And when I told him that I was going to leave, he said that's fine, and he was grateful that I showed up, and I was grateful that he invited me and all of that. But I just really wanted to be with, back at my house, and just kind of get through the rest of the day as best possible. And so, if you're approaching the holidays, there's a couple of things. There's a plan that I'd like to share with you. You might want to write this down, as like a 3-step plan to navigate the day itself. So if you're approaching Christmas, December 25th is coming up here in 5 days. If you're invited to go to somebody's house, or if you're not yet, or you're anticipating to be invited and somebody calls you up and says, hey, I'm going to, do you want to come join us? There might be actually Christmas Day invitations that you're going to get on that day to say, hey, we don't want you to be alone. We want you to, be with family and friends, or you should be with family and friends. I understand what they're saying, but if there's going to be any type of plans for you, whether you're staying home or doing nothing, or if you're going to go out with some family and friends because you're feeling up to it, then the first thing to do is to decide where your threshold is for time with your family and friends. Is that 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? Is it, hey, I'm just going to play it by ear? But you might want to write down like how much time you are willing to spend with the family and friends if you are going to go somewhere. And then on the day of, you might actually feel good right now, meaning you might want to actually go spend some time with your family and friends. And you're like, no, I think this is good. This is going to be good for me. But you might wake up on Christmas morning and be like, oh, no, 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 I don't want to do anything. I'm just not going to do anything. So on Christmas Day, day one is to kind of write down how much time you think you would want to spend with them, whether it's all day or part of the day or just an hour, doesn't matter. The second thing is to, on Christmas Day itself, see where you are. When you wake up, it's probably going to be hard. And I'm not trying to make this sound more difficult, but I'm just trying to be real here, that it's going to be hard on that day. There's holidays and anniversaries are always hard. And it's okay for you to be emotional. Why? We're humans, and humans are emotional beings. And if we need to spend some time with ourselves to cry it out, that's okay too. But on that day, see how you are. If you feel up for going, then go. If you don't feel up for going, weigh it out. And if somebody's going to pick you up and bring you over to somebody's house, then I would make it very clear to them that, hey, look, I'm going to do my best, but I don't want to be stuck there. And I think that's a big fear of for us, that if we go to somebody else's house, that especially if we ride with somebody else, that we won't be able to leave if we want to leave. And that can feel very claustrophobic. So I would just recommend that you have a plan with your family and friends, the hosts of the party or the get together, and the person, if somebody's going to be driving you, same thing, set those expectations ahead of time, that I'm going to go and I'm going to do as much as I can. But if I want to leave, I got to leave. And so the third thing is to do as much as you can on that day. When you're with them, you're not obligated to stay there, even if it's 5 minutes. I'm out. Okay. It's okay. So it's okay for us to take care of ourselves on that day. It's really hard. And I just posted a video a couple of days ago, and I invite you to go watch this video. And it's like, how do I mend, how do I heal my broken heart? And here's the thing, when, we have to, these injuries are not seen. If we hurt ourselves physically, that's an injury that can be wrapped in a bandage. If we get into a severe accident, there's months and months and months of rehab, and nobody says anything to you. But grief is not something that is a visible injury. It's all inside. And it's our heart and our heads in this constant battle. And it hurts. It's painful to navigate grief. And so we don't owe anybody an explanation or a justification of why we want to leave or go visit others. Um, we don't owe anybody a justification. We owe it to ourselves to take care of ourselves the best way possible. And if somebody doesn't understand that this is a deep injury inside, an injury that does heal, but somebody doesn't understand that this is an injury that, while it's not physical, it's inside, um, then you're not obligated to try to explain it to them. Um, what I tend to do in some situations like that is I just, I say thank you for, your concern and my well-being. But I've got several people who are taking care of me and helping me out. So it's just a way to kind of help out there. But so Gail, I get it, and I'm so sorry about your sister. I'm sure this is really difficult to try to navigate the holidays without her. I'm wondering if you spent a lot of time with her over the holidays, and this is a very special time for you. And by the way, I can tell you with time, those really good memories that you had with Teresa will come back. You will feel those again. That will replace the emptiness and the sadness that you're feeling right now. And your grief is still very fresh. 5 months is not a long time. And now you're approaching the holidays, which only amplifies how you're feeling. And so I hope this helps a little bit. But thank you so much for asking that question, Gail. Let's see here. Let me scroll back up here. Oh, there's a lot of questions in here. I'm sorry. I've been running my mouth over here. Let me try to get to some of these. So my daughter passed on October 16th. Her 22nd birthday was November 8th, and Thanksgiving, now Christmas. I just want it all to be over. Absolutely, Liz. That's the thing with these holidays. Excuse me. You're not wrong. It's just how we deal with grief. Grief does not care what time of the year it is. It doesn't care what day of the year it is. It doesn't care what time of day it is. It's an internal process that is just constantly on. It's constantly trying to process your grief. And as much as we want a reprieve from the pain, unfortunately, we can't get that during the holidays. But the next best thing that we can do is exactly what you're doing right now, is to be connected to some resources that can hopefully give you some guidance on how to navigate the day. It's connecting with friends. It's being in online support groups. I have an online support group, but that's, if anybody would like to join that, that's great. It's free. It's there for support and companionship, but there are others out there, and everybody has their own, everyone has their own way of navigating their grief, and what works for them works for them. And so I'm so sorry, Liz, that, this is your daughter is recently passed, and she was young. And, I'm hoping that you have some family and friends around you this holiday season to help navigate these days and to be close to. It feels like the most support that we get are in the couple of weeks after we lose our loved one. That's when it seems like the strongest support from family and friends. But what happens though? People go back to their lives, and then we kind of feel like we're left holding the bag. And because we nobody can heal for us. We have to go through the process. And so one of the best ways to actually help the process along, because we can't turn the clock back. We can't change what happened, but we can change what happens next. And we do that by connecting with support services and companionships, even coaches and therapists if you need that, because there's nothing wrong with that. We all need a little bit of help to navigate these difficult days. So thank you so much, Liz, for posting that question. I'm so sorry. And I think there's a lot of people on here that would agree with you that we just want it to be over. So hi, Heidi. Welcome from Southern California. Let's see. We've got, this is my second. This is from DC4L with Dora. This is my second Christmas without my Emil, and I had her 1 year anniversary without her on 12/5. So I'm so sorry, Dora. This is it's even the first year, right? We get through that first year, and I think when we enter that second year of grief, it can almost feel like it's a little harder. Why? Because in a way, we've made it. We've made it to that first year of anniversaries. Every holiday and anniversary has gone by at least once, after that 1 year anniversary. But what we tend to do, and this is hopefully some guidance for everybody here, is that after that first year, we tend to let the guard down a little bit. And I'm not saying we have to be guarded, but we let the guard down because we've made it to the end of that first year. Here's where I would invite you to almost be kind of double down on your support at that point as you're getting into the second year, because it just feels like things are, the shock of the loss has worn off for the most part, and now you're really starting to process some of the grief, and it may hit harder in the second year. And so it's really important for us to double down on connecting with the resources that we need. And by the way, everybody's different. It can happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but I just wanted to let everybody know that, on this journey, this is what you're going to run into. There's going to be some obstacles along the way. And if I can help you clear those obstacles and move through them, it'll help you to actually heal faster. Because when we come up to these obstacles and these challenges and we back off and we take a huge step back, it's not our fault if we do that. It's not your fault if you're struggling. But if we hit these obstacles and we back off, then we're just going to run into them again. And so there are ways to navigate obstacles and the struggles that you're facing on this journey. And so there again, there's resources online. There's videos like this. There's videos that I shoot. There's videos that other people do. There's books. There's groups. There's in-person groups. There's online groups. There are community get-togethers. Grieving widows. There's a lot of those. There's grieving mothers of children. There's groups locally. There's groups online, and then obviously you've got coaches and therapists if you need one-on-one time. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. So thank you for posting that, Dora. And Patty writes from Colorado, thank you, Eric. My 7th Christmas without my Emily, my only child, and killed by her father. I'm so sorry, Patty. I'm sure that's been one of the hardest things to reconcile in so many ways. And so 7 years, doesn't matter if it's 1 year, doesn't matter if it's 7 years, doesn't matter if it's 17 years, your daughter is always going to be with you. And I'm sure that you feel her in your heart every day, every minute of the day. And I'm hoping that there are some nice totems that you carry with you and that you hold dear to you that remind you of the good times that with your daughter here. And I'm so sorry. And I hope that as you navigate this Christmas, that you find some healing in doing whatever you can do as you navigate the rest of the days of this month. And so thank you so much. And again, I'm so sorry. My boyfriend, let's see, Marcine wrote, my boyfriend and I watch it every Christmas. He passed in June and I can't believe he's gone. He won't be able to watch it with me. Marcine, are you talking about A Christmas Carol? If you are, yeah, and that's okay. Look, it doesn't matter what it is that you used to do with your loved one around these holidays. It may not ever return. It may come back in time when you start to reintroduce those traditions back into your world. I've actually found new traditions that I've brought into my life since losing my daughter. And I still carry some of the traditions that were present when she was here, including putting the ornaments that she made on the tree. But I have new traditions that I've introduced into my life. And so, I don't believe death can take our loved one without leaving something behind. And I'm talking about some gifts. And we find these gifts along our journey. And they come a little bit at a time. Some of them can be very challenging when we find them, but we know when we find them. For example, when I opened the box and I found her ornaments, that was the best gift that I could have received at that moment. And so you will find some things along this journey. For anybody on this path, you will find some things on this journey that actually do help heal your heart. And so I invite you to be open to them, because you're going to know it, you're going to feel it, and you're going to know that it's going to help. And if that resonates with you, let me know in the chat, definitely. Welcome. Let's see. Hey, Richard, my wife Kyung passed in June, and I don't care about Christmas anymore. Is this okay? It is okay, sir. It really is. You know, as I was sharing earlier, right now, if you don't have Christmas in your heart, okay, it's okay. No matter what you do, it's okay. If you choose to do nothing, it's okay. Take care of yourself. Find a way to navigate the day in a healthy way. Whether that's maybe sleeping in, maybe that's watching some TV, maybe that's reading. I would invite you to try to do something that, brings some peace to your heart in that day, whatever that can be. But it's okay if you don't care about Christmas anymore. I didn't care about it either, obviously, at the beginning, and it took a couple of Christmases before I found that feeling of Christmas coming back into my heart. So I hope that helps some, sir. Let's see. We got Diane dialing in from Florida. Hi, Diane. Yeah, I'm all over the place. Yes. Let's see here. Nancy, right? My husband loved the house decorated for the holidays. I believe they're still here with us, yet I can't bring myself to bring out any decoration because I feel like I'm leaving him out. That's a really, I'm glad you said that, Nancy, because there is this element that if we carry on, this is element of grief, that if we carry on, we are leaving our loved one behind. That maybe we didn't love them enough if we take a step forward and they're not with us. And I can tell you that um, every step that we take forward, they're still with us, like you said, and we're not leaving them behind. We are carrying on and honoring their life by living ours as much and as best possible. And I'm not negating how you feel and invalidating it. You're absolutely right. It's how you feel. I felt the same way after I lost Zoe. I remember when I would go visit her resting place, I'd go there every day. After she passed in late January, and they were able to lay her to rest in the middle of winter. And but I would visit her every day, and I hated leaving because I felt like I was leaving there alone. Like she's only 15, but I can't leave her here alone. And it was so hard to leave, and I always went back. And I found out one day, or at least realized one day, that I was never leaving. She was never left behind. She's always with me. And so it doesn't matter where I live. It doesn't matter where I go. It doesn't matter what I do. Zoe's always with me. And there are moments when it becomes very clear, at least to me, that she's near me. And I absolutely love that. So it's okay, Nancy, if you don't feel like bringing out any of the decorations. Um, and I maybe you would have a similar experience that I did in terms of when I opened up the box of ornaments and I found all the ornaments in there. And if not, that's okay. One question that I would always like to ask, and I'm asking this of everybody on this call tonight, that if your loved one saw that you were struggling right now, what would they say to you? And I'm not saying that from a place of like guilting you to feeling anything different that you're feeling, but how would they encourage you to navigate this difficult moment? What would they say to you? You can hear their voice in your head and what they would say to you, especially if you've known them for a long time. I know Zoe would be pissed at me if I did not take all those good memories from her life and live mine. But that's what I know Zoe was like. And Zoe, when I say pissed and upset, she, Dad, come on, dude. You got to keep going. I know she would be saying that to me. That's how she would encourage me. Because I know if I wasn't here and the situation was reversed, I would want her to carry on as best possible, knowing that I'm okay. And so I know that doesn't change the situation here, but it's okay for us to do what we need to do to take care of ourselves up to and including navigating the holidays. And so, but ask yourself that question: how would your loved ones support you and encourage you to deal with a very challenging situation like grief if you know them so well? And I'm sure what would come back to you is something pretty powerful and loving and caring, and maybe it is a message from the other side. I don't know. I'm just offering some ways to help to navigate these very difficult days. So I do hope that helps in some way, Nancy. Um, let's see here. Um, Whoops. Let's see. My boyfriend passed in June. So Marcine said, my boyfriend passed in June. We were together for 8 years, and it was really just the two of us on holidays. And you're numb. What a great way to put that, Marcine. I say great is that it's so accurate. Numb. It's like you feel nothing. I don't feel happy. I don't feel sad. I just feel blah. I'm just existing right now. And so I get that. It's all very hard to um, you can't make something happen like that. You can't say, oh, I'm just going to snap my fingers and I'm going to be good. I'll be happy. It takes a lot of energy to navigate grief in the first place. And when you're approaching the holidays or other anniversary dates, it can really feel like there's just nothing else in the tank to give anybody else, including yourself. But um, we always have to put our oxygen mask on first, and it's okay to do that. That's why the the flight attendants, that's exactly why they tell us to do that, because if we're not good, we can't help anybody else. And we don't necessarily obligated to help anybody else, but it's okay. What I mean by that is that it's okay for us to help ourselves and to put that oxygen mask on us first, and whatever that means. So let's see here. Catherine Boyer said, this is my second Christmas without my husband. Also, we were married almost 39 years. I'm so sorry, Catherine. I mean, that's a lot of time. That's so much time with your husband. And it just probably feels so like it's almost like too unbelievable for it to be believable that our loved one is no longer here. And if that resonates with you, please put a yes in the chat, because I get it. It's one of those things where, geez, we just want to make some sense of what has happened. And it's hard to do that. And the only way we actually begin to make some sense of our loss and is a little bit of time. Time is not the driver of our healing; it's a companion. But the actual driver of our healing are the steps that we take. And I'm talking about getting up in the morning and carrying on. I'm talking about even when you don't want to carry on one more minute or one more day without your loved one. That is where the strength is built, little bit by little bit. Even if it's a little step forward, a millimeter forward is still progress. And what you'll find is that of every little step you take forward, a little bit of that weight falls off. The next step you take forward, a little bit of the weight falls off. I'm talking about the heaviness of the grief. And pretty soon you're going to find that you can actually move with bigger steps. You can take bigger steps. And it's okay, because it doesn't all happen at once. There's a lot to reconcile with our grief. There could be some emotions like guilt, or anger, or the sadness. It takes time to reconcile that. And it's something that we just can't snap our fingers with and be okay one day to the next. And so as you're navigating this, and Catherine, if this is the first Christmas without your husband, then I invite you to, I was saying earlier, to, come up with a plan for the day of Christmas, how you want to spend that. If you want to spend it with others, if somebody's coming to your house, and by the way, if somebody is coming to your house, if you're hosting people this year and you're not really sure how to handle that, I would set expectations with your guests and say, hey, you know what? At some point, I may just want to go lay down, and I'm going to go lay down. It's not being rude. You're taking care of yourself. And hopefully everyone would understand that, to be able to give you some space. So let's see. Gail C. Teresa lost her only daughter 1 week before Christmas 11 years ago. She was murdered. I'm so sorry, Gail. That's Dying of natural causes is one thing. Dying by your own hand is another thing. But when somebody is taken from you, it's another thing. It's a different part of grief that um, I don't wish on anybody, right? I don't think anybody wishes any grief on anybody, but how do you reconcile that? And so, for you, Gail, since it's been 11 years, has there been some reconciliation in terms of like internal, with navigating that grief, or is the grief still very present as if it just happened? I'm just curious on that. So, let's see. So Marcine writes here, I wish there was a way to chat with others who understood. Most just don't talk about it. And you're right, Marcine, you're bringing up a good point. And this is why I opened up my private Facebook group, because I wanted a place for people to have these conversations openly, because we're with people who get it. They understand us. They appreciate it. They know the emotions that go along with it. And there's a lot of support in there. Almost every time a new member joins our group, several members of my group actually come in there and they say, I'm so sorry. They're there to hold support. While it's not the same thing, it is companionship in a different way. It's with people that get you, because a lot of times our closest family and friends just do not understand and can't comprehend what we're going through. They see us hurting. They want to help, but they don't know what to do. And sometimes they say things that, while they think it's helpful, it's actually hurtful. And so there's just if you're around people that don't understand, then my invitation to you is to find either local groups, like get together groups in your community, or online, or online, and connect with those grief support groups, because, and there's several of them, by the way. And so there's just a lot of support in those groups. And I'm grateful for online support groups, because, before the internet was there, it was like you had to deal with grief on your own. And now that there are these online groups, it's something that gives a little bit of support. It's not going to heal you, but it's a place to go and communicate with others. And I do see a lot of friendships getting formed in our community with people who are struggling. And they widows connect with widows, mothers connect with mothers, fathers connect with other fathers. I've connected with a few people that have joined the group just because they've lost a child as well. And so it does, and there's a lot of camaraderie and companionship um, when you are with people who do understand and get you. So thank you so much for posting that, Marcine. Um, let's see here. Let's see. Grief is exhausting. The fake smile, the fake laugh, and I hate it when people ask me how I'm doing. I get that, Dora. It's really hard when people ask those questions and or say things to us. And again, I maybe there is some genuine care there when they're asking how you're doing. They probably know based on how you are, how you're doing. But um, one of the best questions that I think I've ever heard from somebody isn't so much as how are you doing? Well, that I found it to be helpful. The better question I felt was, what do you need from me right now? Sometimes with family and friends, we can reset expectations. You know what I really need right now is I need for you to ask me if there's anything that I need. And it's not selfish, by the way, because that may be a way for you to say, actually, I'm good. Or, you know what? I need somebody to listen right now because I'm just struggling. I worked with a guy in Boston. I went back to work about 4 months after I lost Zoe, and I shared an office space with another guy. His name was Jose. One of the nicest uh, co-workers and friends I could have ever had in my life. And Jose always, always, always. I mean, your mind's going 100 miles an hour with the grief, the thoughts, the questions, and I would just lose myself. I'd turn my chair around, just stare out the window, and I'd have these thoughts. I'd turn around and I go, man, grief is really weird. And he would stop what he's doing. He'd turn around and he'd be like, what do you mean? And he would let me kind of talk about it. And he was an excellent listener. And the reason I shared that with you, Dora, is that we need people that will just listen, not try to fix it for us, just listen. because I think that'll help. And so maybe there's a way for you that if people are asking how you're doing to say, you know what, I would really appreciate is if you ask me if there's anything that I can, that, what do I need right now? Because that may just be an ear, that might just be, some help around the house. It might just be something. So I hope that helps a little bit. So Heidi wrote, what surprised me about grief of losing my husband in 21 was that my childhood traumas came immediately roaring back. I thought I was healed from them. Nope. The pain of past returned. Heidi, you bring up a really, really important part of grief that I think really impacts a lot of us. And it's this, is that as we're growing up, we have experiences in our childhood that were out of our control. Um, Maybe we were in a loving household, maybe we weren't. Maybe we went to a good school and had friends, maybe we didn't have any friends. Maybe we had traumatic experiences as a child. And to some degree, all of us have had some level of trauma, most of us, not everybody. Um, but the way that we coped through that trauma and left unchecked, we bring that into adulthood. And other traumas, other situations and setbacks can actually trigger us to bring all of that back up. And so I'm a certified trauma specialist. And so here's what I know about trauma, and I hope this helps you and everybody who's listening. When we experience a traumatic experience, whether we've lost our loved, I found my daughter Zoe, but if you experience a traumatic situation in life, your brain is going to try to process it, but it can't. Think about taking this memory, this situation, this horrible situation that you've experienced. Think of it as a rock. Now, our brain throughout the day, on a regular day, on a normal day, we take in information through our five senses, and our brain processes it, and it keeps what it wants to keep, and then it discards the rest, which is why sometimes we forget what we had for breakfast or lunch the previous day, because that's just not important. Our brain didn't find it important enough to keep. But a traumatic memory does not get processed. It goes right back to long-term storage in our head. And when every once in a while it will try to go back through. So think of it, this rock, as trying to be processed through like a garbage disposal in a sink, right? It's just going to clink around. It's not going to go. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to just continue to be in the front, especially when you get triggered. And so when you're able to work with somebody who is a trauma specialist or somebody who's a specialized in trauma therapies, um, there are ways to actually take that memory and help it through the processing system so it stops becoming a long-term memory that gets thrown in the front of your brain to be processed again, and it can't. So there's this horrible cycle of, it's a loop. It's like this horrible loop that happens. And so um, you're not wrong, Heidi, at all. In fact, and it's not your fault either. It's just the way that the human brain works. And so if you are still struggling with that trauma, and if anybody is, then I would recommend that you connect with a therapist who is trained in trauma therapies. Because honestly, very quick, I went through a process a couple of years ago, and in 5 sessions, I was able to process that very traumatic experience of finding my daughter Zoe. And so you don't have to go through the traditional 4 or 5 years of, like, it's called cognitive CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. You can go through a protocol that's designed to help you process those specific traumas and in the correct way, so your brain actually doesn't keep on recalling it. So I hope that helps some. So how do you respond when people say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, etc.? It's not happy or merry. I know, right? It's like it's gone from being the happiest time of the year to the worst time of year. And so this is DM wrote this in the chat. And so DM, you're not wrong. It's very hard to, especially if you don't feel it. And so, in those situations, um, everybody's different in the way they need to process those, or they want to process those. And so uh, it may actually make you angry, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I would invite then is to, when you get home from those situations, whether it's work or walking down the street or people that you know, if people don't know, then they just have no way of understanding that you're maybe grieving. But if people say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and all of that, I would invite you when you get home to grab a piece of paper or a journal and kind of write down why that, where those emotions are coming from. Obviously, the grief is a big piece of that. And so the way I find to be able to process those types of emotions when something like that happens and it feels horrible is that I need to write it out. Like I've got journals here, guys. I journal every day because whatever's going on up here is just going to stay up here. But the second I get it on paper, I'm dumping it out of my brain. So I don't have to think about it. I don't carry the emotions with me. I just get rid of it. And so even if you write something down on a piece of paper, I don't like it when people say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas, you crumple it up and you throw it away. You got it out of your brain. And so we have to metabolize these emotions somehow. And so that could be through other means. It could be, taking a nap. It could be journaling. It could be doing some diaphragmatic breathing. And diaphragmatic breathing is one of the quickest ways to reduce those emotional temperatures of the amplification that we feel when we're grieving, especially around the holidays. And so I hope that helps a little bit there. So Martin's dialing in from Los Angeles here. What do I say to my 7-year-old grandson if I cry on our family Christmas dinner? Richard, that is a really good question. And there's nothing wrong with you being honest and saying, I'm sad. I'm sad. You don't have to hide it. We're emotional beings. And I think the more that we can be available to, emotionally available to the people that love us, the more that we can actually receive more support. And so it's okay. It's okay to show emotion. I can't tell you how many times I've been in places that were completely benign, meaning, going to somebody's house and seeing a picture and being reminded of Zoe, and I get emotional. And I was just talking with somebody yesterday at a workshop, and I was sharing some details about Zoe, and I got emotional about it. It's 10 years later. I got emotional about it. And I didn't apologize for those emotions because I was feeling them. I'm human. And so I think the way that, just to share your son is to be honest with him. I'm sad. And I'm sad because I'm missing my loved one. And I hope that helps some, Richard. I'm stuck in my grief. And this is Dora. I'm stuck in my grief. And I feel like if I move forward, I'm leaving her behind and eventually it will just be a memory. And she is not in our new memories that we don't make. I think I'll never accept it. Yeah. Sorry, I kind of just butchered that entire sentence that you wrote there. But I do believe I understand what you're saying. So I remember a few months after I lost Zoe, Dora, I was looking at a picture of her in my house. And for a split second, I felt like I forgot Zoe. And it scared me. And I thought the next thought was, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget about her. I can tell you, I'm 10 years into this journey. And I love Zoe as much as I did the day that she was born, and probably more. That love will never die. You will never forget about your loved one. And you'll always feel her in your heart like you did when she was here. And so, again, they're always with you. So we're never leaving them behind. They're always with us. And reminding yourself that they're always with you can hopefully help when you're struggling like that. But I appreciate that question. So Gloria wrote, my baby Sean Miguel passed away at home in his sleep in September. We didn't really celebrate the holidays since my mom passed away, but I have a difficult time. I'm so sorry, Gloria. I'm sorry to hear about Sean Miguel. Losing a child is just absolutely one of the hardest things. Of course, everybody has a different loss here, but I'm so sorry. And as with the others who have posted here and asked the questions, it's okay to handle and to navigate the holiday as best possible. There's no one right way to take these steps except for the way that works for you. And that may mean that you don't do anything on Christmas this year. You may not celebrate. That's okay. Maybe there's going to be some holidays in the future where you will celebrate. And I'm pretty sure there will be. It just takes some time. It takes some working through the grief in order for your heart to be open again. Um, and I invite anybody that's watching this call right now to, there's a video that's on my channel. It's called How the Heart Heals. And I will post a link in the comments after this goes to the replay. But I invite you to watch that because I use a milk jug as a metaphor of what happens, and I can share that with you here. So in a way, when before we lose our loved one, we've got a full milk jug. Like it's a full, smooth, full capacity heart. And when we lose our loved one, that gets crushed right down to absolutely nothing. And it stays like that for a while. And with time and with some activities and actions, I should say, of healing, that's taken the steps forward, it's carrying on, it's even navigating just a day of grief. It all counts. But with time and with taking those steps forward, there is capacity that's added back into our heart, and it's damaged and it's healing, and there's scar tissue that's being formed. But along the way, there are moments when there are palpable shifts in your grief where one day you're not feeling very well, and the next day you feel significantly better, not 100%, but you're feeling better. And so there's capacity being added back into your heart. And eventually the heart comes back to as much capacity as it's going to contain. And it's dented and it's scraped because, again, that I'm using the milk jug metaphor here, that as the capacity goes back in there, those sections are popping back out. Your heart is filling back up again as much as it possibly can. And sometimes that scar tissue is actually stronger than what it was before. My heart is severely scarred after losing my daughter, as I'm sure everybody here's is. And I have good days still. I have bad days, but I've learned a lot on this journey about how I can navigate my path. And you are not alone. Nobody on this call, nobody watching this video is alone. There are so many resources out there. And if you feel alone, I get it. I just invite you to try to connect with some resources that work for you. When we try to go this alone, it actually is harder. And so I just invite you just to be more open to resources that you can connect with, whether it be online groups, a therapist, a coach, in-person groups, online. I think I already said that, online support groups, but yes. So there's just no one right way to do this. I'm going to try to go through these pretty quickly because we're almost at the hour already, and I appreciate you folks. And I'll stay on a couple minutes if you want to as well. I do want to be respective of your time, and so if you do need to go, thank you so much for being on here. I am going to go through the rest of the questions here, probably another 5 to 10 minutes just to get through them here so that we can just answer these questions. And I'm doing another session, by the way. If you're not able to be on tonight, or if you would like to join us for another live session, I'm going to be doing another session on Saturday, same time, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. Same concept. Let's get in here. Let's talk about this as we get closer to the Christmas day. So let's see here. Let me scroll down here. Yeah, I know Teresa wouldn't want me to continue crying and be sad, depressed, hurt, lonely, or broken. And Gail, there's no guilt there. I mean, meaning that there's no. I understand what you're feeling on this. Um, um, I know Zoe wouldn't want me to be upset, and I don't think I feel guilt about that. It's just that's just the way I'm choosing to see it. And so for you, if you don't believe that Teresa would want you to be continue to cry and be broken, then I invite you to look into some steps to try to go in a different direction with your grief towards the healing, so that you start to heal. You feel less broken. You feel a little bit more whole. And so I hope that helps some. Nancy said, I felt guilty going to my daughter's Thanksgiving, but in the middle of the night, I got up and slept in a chair, and I heard my husband say my name. Nancy, that's I love stuff like this. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but I love stuff like this because it just shows that each of us deals with grief in our own way. I've heard Zoe say my name several times, and I feel so much more closer to her when I do hear that. And everybody's different. Some people might disagree with that being a thing, but everybody deals with the grief the way they need to. And so I'm glad that you were able to hear his voice, and I hope it warmed your heart some. Um, Beverly says, I'm spending Christmas alone. My daughter invited me. Christmas Day will be 2 months since my husband passed, and I told her I just can't be around people celebrating. I can't. I don't blame you on this, Beverly. And so, but going back to my earlier discussion about maybe a way to handle that is, okay, if you can't handle it today, maybe you'll feel differently on Christmas Day, and if you don't, that's okay. There's no pressure to do anything. Um, but if you do feel differently on Christmas Day, then maybe you can spend a little bit of time with your daughter and her family if you feel compelled to do so. But again, there's no obligation, and I'm sure your daughter would understand. Mary Ann writes, Christmas Eve is also 8 months since my husband passed. I'm facing being alone. I have a movie, a book, crafts lined up. That's really a good idea, Marianne, to have something there for you to do. And you know what? You might get to Christmas Day and not do any of it. You might get to Christmas Day and want to do more. Again, there's no one right way to do this. So I love what you have planned for that. He'd want me to keep busy and remember over our 8 wonderful years we had together. I really appreciate that, Marianne. And I'm sure it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for any of us, but I love that you've got a plan for that day. Nancy said my daughter couldn't sleep, and she came downstairs to say she could sleep. Said the house felt different. Where I told her what happened, she believed it was his way of saying he was happy for me. It sounds like that too. Really, really cool. I'm glad that you had that experience here. So let's see here. Let's see. Clifford writes, if this year is year 3 since my wife of 25 years, I found her dead at home. I'm so sorry about that, Clifford. The days just pass by in the empty home. Holidays have a little meaning now. You're not wrong, sir. It's really hard to navigate these holidays without our loved ones, especially if it's very soon. In even 3 years. Look, there's no timeline here for our grief. If you're feeling it just as strongly as you did 3 years later, that it's just how you are processing your grief. And so hopefully there will be some times in the future, some years in the future where you do feel reconnected with the holidays in some way, but there's no obligation to do that. And so I do appreciate you being here on this call. I'm hoping that some of this discussion has helped you in some way and helped anybody that's been listening here tonight. Yeah, Liz says, I literally have chest pains every day. It sounds cliche, but I do feel like a part of my heart died. Yeah, it does. Guys, our heart is damaged. I mean, it's maybe figuratively it's damaged, but we feel it. And it's just the way that we navigate our grief. So no questions there. Just thank you for sharing this live stream. So yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate that. I appreciate your comments on my other videos as well. And so I thank you all for coming in tonight, taking up your valuable time to sit and hopefully get some guidance tonight and helping you to navigate this path as we're approaching the holidays. I'm hopeful this was very helpful for you. And I just want to create a space for people to be able to talk about this. And hopefully, again, something you gleaned a couple of nuggets of gold in this process as you're trying to navigate the holidays. And so, If you so inclined, join me again on Saturday evening at 7 p.m. I'll be here, and then I'll be on again after Christmas, the day after Christmas on the 26th, because I really feel like there's a lot of good things that we can all learn from each other about how we navigated that day. And by the way, you will get through the day. You will get through the day. And I'm sending you all a lot of love. And I know that we're all kind of spread around the world here, but I'm sending you all a virtual hug. It will be okay. We're going to find a way to get through this. So, as always, I hope this helps. And we will see you on Saturday evening. Thank you guys all for so very much for coming tonight. I hope you have a good night. I hope you sleep well. And we'll talk again soon.